Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tausif, and I'm back with a new live stream. We are going to be talking about international trade, obviously a huge, huge topic. Um, and there are always new updates. There are always um, new developments taking place whenever you want to talk about international trade, tariffs, trade, international negotiations. It's all very complex, but it is always my goal to share with you the important highlights. And as I'm sharing information with you, I would love to hear from you. So share with me your thoughts and comments. And if you are tuning in for the first time, please make sure that you are subscribing to this channel to stay connected. And please, I would appreciate if you like this video. What that does is it helps us reach more people. All right. So thank you so very much, my friends. One of the top priorities of President Donald J. Trump is to bring fairness to this complex system of international trade. International trade has been taking place for a very, very long time. I mean, we can go back and talk about the days of, you know, um, merchants who would make long journeys across countries and continents and go to different parts of the world to do trade, to do trade. And international trade has evolved so much, right? I mean, nowadays it's not people on horsebacks, it's not um, traders on old-fashioned ships going from one country to another, but it's really a very fast-paced and complex system of trade. Okay, um, trade by road. Okay, trucks moving across country lines, across borders. Trade through ships, cargo ships, ships carrying freight. Plane, you know, in this day and age, a lot of products move by plane, by air, and people can spend a lifetime just studying international trade. There's so much to talk about. We could be here for not just hours and days and weeks, but months. It's a topic that you can spend a lifetime learning about international trade. Okay, and international trade is affected by so much. Geopolitics plays a huge role in international trade. What country are you trading with? What country do you want to trade with? That's a big question, right? So anyway, I want to get to the main points here. One of the top priorities of President Trump is to bring fairness to this complex system of international trade. Fair trade is important. Simply doing trade, I mean, you can do it for a while, but if the trade is not fair, if you're trading and you just lose, 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 that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. If you are a leader of a country and you're engaging in trade, you're leading the government, and your country is trading with another country or another set of countries, and in that trade you end up losing, it's not acceptable to you. It's not acceptable to the people who have elected you. It's not acceptable to the people who you represent, the country that you represent. And so President Trump, what he is doing is he's trying to bring fairness to this complex system of international trade. By the way, I see some viewers who have already joined. I see Kushi is here. Hi there. Thank you for being here. Kushi is from La Crosse. If you are tuning in, please introduce yourself in the live chat. I would appreciate that so very much. So, President Trump wants to ensure fair trade, and as such, he is using tariffs to bring the leaders of the different countries to the table for discussion and for reforms. Okay. Now, that work seems to be going very well. Countries are coming to the table, negotiations are taking place, objectives are being met, goals are being achieved. So, progress is taking place, work is being done. We are seeing success as the United States of America. We are seeing success. But understand this, my friends, no process is going to take place without hiccups. There will be some hiccups. There will be some pushback. Okay. Some degree of retaliation we're going to see. I think um, it's sort of like, you know, our leaders know going into important decision making that some countries will push back, some countries will retaliate. For example, we saw retaliation coming from China. Okay, a very big economy. Obviously, there are so many components of negotiating with China. So we saw some retaliation, but that situation has improved significantly. Okay. And I feel very optimistic. I feel very optimistic about US China negotiations. I think no matter what China does to retaliate, at the end of the day, they have to come to the table, they have to negotiate, they have to understand and embrace logic and reason. And that's going to happen because we have a true leader, President Donald J. Trump, who is not going to back down. He's not going to retreat. He's not going to withdraw. He's going to move forward with his demands. He will make his expectations very public, like he does through social media. And he's got a great team that does a lot of work behind the scenes. You got the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, um, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and there are others who are involved, the U.S. Trade Representative. There are others who are involved in these negotiations. So, yes, we get some public information through news releases, press releases, through news conferences. When President Trump is answering questions from reporters, he makes some information public. Obviously, he's posting on social media, on Truth Social, quite a bit. But then there's a lot of work that takes place behind the scenes that you and I may not know about on a day to day basis. But once significant developments have been made, we are going to get updates because the Trump administration is very, very accountable. They're very, very transparent. So I feel very optimistic about US China negotiations. But now, the reason why I'm doing this live stream is because we need to talk about EU. All right. What is the EU? It's the European Union. We need to talk about the European Union. So, how many countries are there in the European Union? Can anyone tell me? Well, you can just look it up. It's 27, 27 countries in the EU. So it's a massive union. It's a very, very big union. Okay, some of the countries in the European Union, I'm going to share with you a few names, not all 27, but just think about the countries like Austria, Belgium, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Ireland, Italy, Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, and more. 27 countries total. And so they're all in the EU, they're all in the European Union. So you can understand the size of this massive collection of countries. And now, given the size of the European Union and all the entities involved in the EU, it's not the easiest to deal with this union. Okay. I mean, although the countries that I mentioned are part of the European Union, but these, they're part of a bigger collective, but they're also individual countries and they have their individual interests. So you can understand the complexity of the negotiations with EU. It's going to take time, and many people will have to be involved, and lots of details will have to be looked at. Um, Now, President Donald J. Trump, he is quite patient. He makes swift decisions, he makes prompt decisions, but he's also quite patient when needed. But also understand that time is of the essence. All these negotiations that are taking place, yes, these negotiations will take time because international trade is complex. But also, if these negotiations move very, very slowly, that's a problem. Negotiations will have to um, follow some kind of a timeline. Okay, negotiations must be, uh, must move forward. Uh, at a good pace. It can't be too slow. So anyway, when President Trump realized that negotiations with European Union, these negotiations are not progressing as desired, he wrote on Truth Social on May 23rd, and I'm going to read to you what he wrote on Truth Social. And this is Donald J. Trump. He wrote, "The European Union, which was formed for the primary purpose of taking advantage of the United States on trade, has been very difficult to deal with. Their powerful trade barriers, their VAT taxes, ridiculous corporate penalties, non monetary trade barriers, monetary manipulations, unfair and unjustified lawsuits against American companies, and more have led to a trade deficit with the United States of more than $250 million a year." Oh my God. $250 million a year. Okay. Um, Hold on. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, my friends. Oh, Kushi's here. Tangerine's here. Hi, Tangerine. Oh, there's a viewer who's from Germany. Hi there. All right, my friends, as you are tuning in, um, please subscribe. Okay. Uh, Viewer is asking, what is the stream about? This channel is about social and political issues, both domestic and international. Okay. All right. Okay. So $250 million a year. President Trump wrote this. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to find something here, my friends. No, it's not German politics. This is U.S. politics, but we're also talking about international issues. Okay. Um, I'm just taking a quick break because I'm looking for an information that I should have had with me prior to the start of this live stream, but um, I missed it. So give me 1 second. Hold on, my friends. Uh, okay. So as I was saying, I'm gonna read to you um, that quote again. Okay. I was just gonna look it up. So President Trump wrote on May 23rd of 2025. He wrote on Truth Social. The European Union, which was formed for the primary purpose of taking advantage of the United States on trade, has been very difficult to deal with. Their powerful trade barriers, VAT taxes, ridiculous corporate penalties, non monetary trade barriers, monetary manipulations, unfair and unjustified lawsuits against American companies, and more have led to a trade deficit with the U.S. of more than $250 million a year, a number which is totally unacceptable. Our discussions with them are going nowhere. Therefore, I'm recommending a straight 50% tariff on the European Union starting on June 1st of 2025. There is no tariff if the product is built or manufactured in the United States. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Okay. Um, that announcement, that decision, okay, it impacted the markets. Okay. I'm not a financial advisor. I am not, um, a stock market expert. I'm not, and I'm not claiming to be one. But I think anyone who was paying attention could see that that decision impacted the market. Okay. Um, that post raised many questions about the United States and European Union relationship. Okay, what is the future of this relationship? Business people and investors started asking questions. It created a sense of urgency as well as uncertainty. There was uncertainty, like what's going to happen, um, and there was a massive chain reaction. Anyway, I think European Union got the message that President Trump is determined to achieve the outcomes that he wants to achieve. That is, achieve free trade. Free trade, fair trade. Okay, fair trade. Fair trade. I meant to say fair trade. He wants to achieve fair trade. Uh, by the way, let me give you um, some more information that will help you understand the importance of this U.S.-EU trade relationship. The European Union is massive. Estimated population is more than 451 million people in the European Union, more than 451 million people. So the world balance depends on the US-EU relationship. The global financial markets depend on the US-EU relationship. And you know what I think? I think that I think there are some country leaders out there who are probably trying to engage in a delay tactic. Johnny is here. Hi, Johnny. Uh, all right, let's see. Okay. I'm reading some comments here. My friends, make sure that you like this video. There are some leaders out there, people who are leading the different governments in different countries. There are some people out there who are engaging in the delay tactic. And what is this delay tactic? They're trying to delay the conversation. They're trying to slow down the dialogue and the talks. They're trying to delay, delay, and delay because they know that each presidential term is 4 years. So there are people out there uh, who are trying to delay the talks, delay the dialogue, delay the negotiations because they are hoping that there's going to be a new president in 4 years. And so while President Trump is in office, they are trying to delay the conversations as much as possible. So this delay tactic, I mean, let me tell you, President Trump understands what's going on. So he is going to apply maximum pressure to get a deal done. A new deal has to be negotiated with each country in question. A new deal has to be negotiated, and things will have to be finalized on paper, and changes must be implemented. And all of this has to be done as soon as possible. So, anyway, I think this massive collection of countries, the United States, this massive collection of countries, the European Union, I think they got the message that the United States of America, with our current leader, President Donald J. Trump, will not allow delay. Okay, this delay tactic is not going to work. So EU got the message loud and clear. And then the president of the European Commission, and I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, Ursula von der Leyen, is that how it's pronounced? The president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. I think that's how it's pronounced. Anyway, if I'm mispronouncing, I apologize. The president of the European Commission wrote on social media, she wrote, "Good call with the president of the United States. The European Union and United States share the world's most consequential and close trade relationship. Europe is ready to advance talks swiftly and decisively. To reach a good deal, we would need the time until July 9th." Okay. So President Trump announced new tariffs, 50%, to go into effect June 1st of 2025. And the president of the European Commission said that to reach a good deal, they would need time until July 9th. So they asked for additional time. All right. And then President Trump, on May 25th, he wrote, give me 1 second. On May 25th, he wrote on social media, "I received a call today from Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, requesting an extension on the June 1st deadline on the 50% tariff with respect to trade and the European Union. I agreed to the extension, July 9th, 2025. It was my privilege to do so. The commission president said that talks will begin rapidly. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So the president of the European Commission asked for additional time, and President Trump said, granted. He said, it was my privilege to do so. That is, President Trump said it was his privilege to agree to the extension until July 9th of 2025. So that is a victory for President Donald J. Trump. By the way, um, I've got a poll question. Do you agree that technology companies should produce their products in the United States? Please answer that poll question, okay? If you are tuning in, please answer that poll question. By the way, this message that President Trump has granted extension, this message is going to positively affect the global financial markets this week, okay? Today, it's Memorial Day here in the United States. The markets are not open. Howard is here. Hi, Howard. Good to see you. So Memorial Day, federal holiday, everything's closed. But when the week starts, the markets are going to see the positive impact of President Trump's message that he granted the extension. And the global financial markets this week will likely see the positive effect. I think it's a simple logic. The market tends to want certainty. So I think this extension, giving EU until July to negotiate a deal, and this delay in implementing the announced 50% tariff, it's going to give the global investors a positive message, big investors and also small investors. So whenever a tariff is announced, the markets, they start to swing. And we've seen that. But also keep in mind that a day or two of fluctuations in the stock market, even if it's a serious fluctuation, it's not everything. You have to look at the bigger picture. When the stock market rises, that's good. When the Dow goes up, that's good. When the S&P goes up, that's good. When the NASDAQ goes up, that's good. But if they fall, if the Dow falls, if the S&P falls, if the NASDAQ falls, do not panic. Just stay calm, stay steady, and know that things will get better. Tenacious is here. Tenacious, so good to see you. My friends, if you are tuning in, make sure that you're hitting the like button. Very, very important. Hit the like button and help this channel reach more viewers. Tenacious, good to see you. So yeah, if you see the NASDAQ falling, the S&P falling, the Dow falling, do not panic. Look at the bigger picture. Know that things will get better. These trade talks, these trade negotiations are such that you would have to pay attention to all aspect of it at all times. So while we are talking about the European Union now, and we are waiting for a good outcome of the negotiations, we cannot take our eyes away from the rest of the world. But before I go into that, let me tell you that President Trump is very pleased with the deal with the United Kingdom. In fact, he wrote on Truth Social just a few days ago, he wrote, our negotiated deal with the United Kingdom is working out well for all. I strongly recommend to them, however, that in order to get their energy costs down, they stop with the costly and unsightly windmills and incentivize modernized drilling in the North Sea, where large amounts of oil lay waiting to be taken. A century of drilling left, with Aberdeen as the hub. The old-fashioned tax system disincentivizes drilling rather than the opposite. UK's energy costs would go way down and fast. So that's President Trump giving some valuable advice to to the United Kingdom regarding energy. So now let's talk about Asia. As I said, while we are talking about the European Union, we cannot um, we cannot forget about the other parts of the world. Okay, let's talk about Asia. So India has not been fair to the United States in terms of trade, and I think President Trump mentioned that a number of times. India has not been fair to the United States. Okay, India not only imposes tariffs, but also they have non-tariff barriers that prevent American companies from doing successful business in India. And so President Trump talked about it. He talked about India abusing tariffs, India not being fair to the US in terms of trade. We know that. We've talked about it. And President Trump is working to solve that problem. But his message to Apple is something, President Trump's recent message to Apple is something that has generated a lot of discussion in recent days. Now, I'm sure many of you heard that already. President Trump wrote on Truth Social on May 23rd, he wrote, I have long ago informed Tim Cook of Apple that I expect their iPhones that'll be sold in the United States of America will be manufactured and built in the United States, not India or any place else. If that is not the case, a tariff of at least 25% must be paid by Apple to the United States. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Plain and simple. If we are going to be buying smartphones, we meaning the US consumers, those ideally should be produced in the United States. Apple is a big company. Apple is a giant company. It produces very, very popular products and very reliable products, high quality products. And Apple products are becoming more advanced every day. With each new version of their laptop that they come out with each new version of their smartphones, I mean, they are just creating more refined products, amazing technology, advanced products. Okay. So Americans would love it if Apple produced their products in the United States. I think it would help Apple in the long run if they produce their products on US soil. And it's not just Apple. Obviously, President Trump talked about Apple because Apple is, you know, everyone knows that name. Everybody in the world, okay, knows what Apple is. It's such an amazing company, technology company. So it's not just Apple. There are other smartphone, manufacturers. There are other companies that produce um, smartphones, and I think the same applies to them. If you want to sell your products in the United States, then produce in the United States. When people see the words made in the USA, made in USA, when people read that on a box, on a label, on a product, they read made in USA, it has a very powerful impact on the consumers. And I think that's what the future is going to look like. American consumers will favor products that are made in the USA. I think this is what is going to happen. I think it's already happening. I think it's already happening. And this is what's going to happen going into the future. When consumers, when you're out and about and you're at the mall, you're at a store, you're buying something, and if you see it says made in America, made in USA, I think people will be more inclined to buy that product versus another product, same thing that is produced in, just pick your country, made in China. Okay. So if you are out um, in the market trying to buy a smartphone and you see one says made in India and one says made in USA, which one are you more likely to buy? I think made in USA. Made in USA, when you read those words, it has a psychological impact. It gives a great degree of confidence versus when it says made in India. Even let me tell you, even if the made in USA product costs a little bit more, I think people are going to buy that product. Let's say that there are two smartphones and you're trying to decide which one to buy. One says made in India, other says made in USA. And let's say the made in USA one costs a little bit more. I think people will still likely buy that made in USA because there's a certain pride associated with the words made in USA. People feel proud. Hey, this is made in the USA. This is made in my country. American workers, American land, American manufacturing facility. Made in USA. So, made in USA, those words have a powerful impact on the consumers. And I think this is what the future is going to look like. It's a strong sentiment that people have. And over a period of many, 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 many years, we saw a lot of production left the United States and went to other countries. A lot of production, not just production, but a lot of services too. I mean, have you ever called a 1-800 number and somebody from overseas answered that phone? Like you're calling the customer service line of a company, okay? And let's say you're calling a financial institution. You have a question and you're calling your financial institution, you're dialing the 1-800 number and then they tell you, "Oh, press 1 for this, press 2 for that, press 3 for this." They go on and on. I know it gets exhausting sometimes when you have to sit and listen to the automated message and people often press 0. They press 0, 0, 0. Okay? Because they say, "Oh, if you want to check your balance, press 1. If you have question about your whatever bill, press 2. If you want to do this, if you want to open a new account, press 3." People say all, and like a lot of consumers associate 0, the button 0, pressing 0 with, basically bypassing that whole, audio recording and going straight to a customer service agent, right? I mean, I often press 0. I'm like, I'm just going to press 0. And there are some systems that won't recognize it. They're going to make you listen to the whole thing and they'll say press 8 for customer service and then you press 8. Anyway, so um so you reach the customer service agent or it says press 1 for English, press 2 for something else. You press 1 and you know that the person who answered the phone is not in the US. Now it's not about the accent, okay? I mean, I'm in the US, but if you talk to me, um, you will understand that I was not born and raised in the US because there's a certain accent, as I'm speaking, as you're listening to me, um, you can tell I was not born and raised in the US, but I'm in the US. So I'm not saying that by simply listening to somebody's accent, you're making the determination that the person is from outside the US or answering the phone from outside the US. I have actually asked some of these people, I've asked, like, okay, are you in the US? And, they'll some of them will tell you no, they're answering a call from some other country. Okay. Audrey is here. Audrey, so good to see you. Our friend Audrey Ann from Long Island just tuned in. Audrey, so good to see you. Thank you for being here, Audrey. That's our friend Audrey from Long Island, a freedom loving American. Audrey, thanks for being here. So, anyway, what I was saying, um, a lot of these phone calls, these 1-800 calls, whether you're calling your financial institution, whether you're calling the customer service line for a company from which you bought a product, whatever, you call their 1-800 number, somebody from outside the US answers the phone. Once again, I'm not telling just because they sound different, because they have a foreign accent, that they are from outside the US. There are so many people in the United States, many US citizens who have foreign accent. Okay? It's not about the accent. It's about knowing that those people are physically located outside the US. Okay? And I think in the general population, if you go and just, randomly just pick 10 people in your neighborhood and ask them how they feel about the fact that a lot of these 1-800 numbers, when you call these numbers for help to get an answer to your question, somebody from outside the US answers that phone call. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? I mean, those are jobs, those are call center jobs that could be in the US. Those are jobs that could be in the US, but that's not the case. Those jobs have been outsourced, and now somebody from some other part of the world is answering your question. Why not hire American workers? Why not hire American workers? Why were those jobs outsourced? Can anyone tell me? Why? And trust me, there are companies. Now, on the other hand, there are companies, when you call them, they have all their customer service representatives in the US. Those are good companies. See, I'm not mentioning any names here. Okay. I'm not here to say which companies have outsourced their customer service stuff to some other country, and which countries have kept them in the US. I'm not here to produce a list. But there are companies, when I call them, I say, "Oh, where are you answering from?" They'll say, "Oh, I'm from Texas." I'm like, "All right, great." Or they'll say, "Oh, I'm answering the call from North Carolina. We're in North Carolina." And sometimes I've also asked them, like, "Okay, how's the weather in North Carolina? How's the weather in Texas?" So there are companies that keep the jobs in the US. Even when you call their 1-800 number, somebody from the US is answering. And there are companies that actually keep the jobs in the state. There are certain companies, when I call them, I'm in Wisconsin, I call them and I say, okay, are you in Wisconsin? Are you located in Wisconsin? They say, "Oh yeah, I'm located in Madison." I'm like, wow. I'm calling a customer service line, and not only are those customer service agents in the US. They are actually in my state. Even better. Okay? So I think we've all had those experiences, and it gets very frustrating if you have to call a 1-800 number, and just to get a simple answer to your question, just to get simple information, you have to, you know, cross so many barriers, like press 1, and then there's another set of options, and then you press 3, and then somebody answers your phone. They'll say, "Oh, I'm going to transfer you." And then they transfer you, and you have to hold for 15 minutes, and then your call gets transferred, and then you still don't get answer. I mean, it's all frustrating. Time is something that you cannot replace. Once you lose time, once you call a 1-800 number and you've lost 45 minutes of your day just trying to get to somebody who can answer your question, that those are 45 minutes that you're never going to get back. And you may not even get a satisfactory answer at the end. So anyway, I'm going to come back to the main point. Jobs should be brought back to the United States. Manufacturing jobs, customer service jobs. I want to see. I want to see a day when all these customer service, these call centers are in the US. When I call a 1-800 number, I want to talk to an American worker. I don't appreciate the fact that the call gets answered from outside the United States. I do not appreciate that. I'm an American consumer. If I'm buying something from an American company, if I've opened an account at an American bank, if I'm doing transactions with an American financial institution, if I'm calling an American company to speak to somebody about a service, a product, or an experience, I want American workers to answer those phones. Okay? Michael Brown is here. Michael Brown, so good to see you. So good to see you, Michael. Our friend Michael is here. So, plain and simple. And I think whatever I'm saying, a lot of you feel the same way. Call a 1-800 number, and we expect American workers to answer those phone calls. These call center jobs. When did this trend, when did this outflow start? That companies decided, oh, you know what? When our customers call 1-800, their calls will be answered from the other corner of the world. How did we get to this point? But finally, American consumers are speaking. They're expressing their frustration. And finally, we have a leader, Donald Trump, who's making sure that the jobs are coming back to the US. Michael, so good to see you. Michael is here, Kushi is here, Audrey is here, and there are others who are here. By the way, if you don't agree with me, let me know. If you do agree with me, let me know that as well. Give me 1 second, my friends. We got a viewer from Norway supporting Trump. How wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. President Trump has supporters and fans all over the world. President Trump has supporters all over the world. Although he is the American president, but people all over the world look at President Donald J. Trump and they say, that's what a leader looks like. That's what a leader is supposed to be like. And there are people in other parts of the world, they want their prime ministers, they want their presidents to be like Donald J. Trump. So President Donald J. Trump is this symbol of what a leader should be like. And so we got Trump followers and Trump fans all over the world. Okay. So my friends, um, a big transformation is taking place as there's a strong movement to bring production back to the US. Hopefully, a lot of the um, service jobs will also come back to the US, like call center representatives. This movement is led by President Donald J. Trump, and he is supported by his political allies and the general public of the US. The general public, the American public, support Donald J. Trump, and President Trump's Republican allies in Washington are strongly supporting our president, Donald J. Trump. Okay. So, um, a message to many companies out there, plain and simple: produce in the US. Produce your products in the US. Okay, so there's a viewer. I'm going to try to answer some questions here. There's a viewer who's saying, why do you think you have any business being involved in our politics? Are you from outside the United States, Bobby? Bobby, are you from outside the US? Because you're saying being involved in our politics. Which country are you from? I'm from the United States of America. I'm right here in America. I'm in the state of Wisconsin. I'm talking about American politics, and I'm talking about global trade from the American standpoint. So Bobby is saying, why do you think you have any business being involved in our politics? What country are you from, Bobby? I'm talking about American politics. I'm not talking about the politics of your country. Are you from, which country are you from? Are you from Europe, Asia, Africa, Latin America? I don't know. Um, Bobby, I'm a U.S. citizen. Okay. I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm a citizen of the United States. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Bobby probably doesn't know what's going on. Um, yeah, I'm a U.S. citizen, Bobby. Um, so I don't know where Bobby is from. Okay. All right. So Bobby, are you a Biden supporter? Bobby, did you vote for Harris? There are a lot of upset people out there. People who voted for Kamala, and Kamala lost. So a lot of unhappy people out there. A lot of Harris supporters. They're still like they cannot believe what just happened. A lot of sad Harris supporters out there. Anyway, we the freedom loving Americans, we the American people, we the American citizens, we the freedom loving people, we voted for Donald J. Trump. Uh, yeah. All right. My friends, who's here for the first time? Who's watching for the first time? Anyone here who's watching for the first time? Sydney is saying me. Thank you, Sydney. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that, Sydney. All right. My friends, I'm going to wrap up this live stream here real quick. I'm going to go have lunch. Um, but great things are happening in the United States thanks to President Donald J. Trump and his Republican allies. Okay. Sydney is saying MAGA. I love it. Yes, MAGA. By the way, for those who have not seen yet, please check out a video that I posted on my channel. The video is called, let me tell you what the video is called. I posted that not too long ago, this morning. It's called the 2025 Convention of the Republican Party of Wisconsin. So my mother and I, we are both delegates. Okay, we are both Republican delegates from Dane County. So we attended the 2025 convention of the Republican Party of Wisconsin. It was last weekend. So not the weekend that we just had, but the weekend before that. So I made a small, I don't know, 12-minute video approximately about that event. So please go check it out. Okay. Thank you so very much. All right, my friends, I'm going to wrap up this live stream. Minnie is here. Hi, Minnie. Minnie, good to see you. Earth is asking, do you really think things are good? Yes, things are good. Things are getting better. Things were horrible during the 4 years of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Things were horrible during those 4 years of Biden and Harris. A lot of people faced tremendous struggles. A lot of people faced a lot of hardship, gas price skyrocketing, grocery prices skyrocketing. The American people suffered during the 4 years of Biden and Harris. And now President Donald J. Trump is repairing the damage done by the Biden administration. President Donald J. Trump is making America great again. President Donald J. Trump is fixing all the problems. And he's doing it swift. He's doing it fast. And it's a golden age. It's a golden age. All right. So thank you, my friends. Thank you so very much. Let's keep supporting our president and our Republican leaders in Washington. They're doing great. So prices are coming down. Gas price today, really good. Okay. So if you're traveling today, gas price is really good. Really good. Okay. My friends, thank you so very much for watching. I will be back again with more videos and more live stream, and together we will make America great again. So with that, may God bless you all. May God bless President Donald J. Trump. May God bless the Trump administration. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless our U.S. allies. And may God bless freedom-loving people all over the world. Thank you so very much. Together, we will make America great again. Thank you, my friends. I will be back again soon. And don't forget to watch the video that I just posted a short while ago, the 2025 convention of the Republican Party of Wisconsin. Please watch that video, leave a comment. Thank you. Bye-bye.